teams around the NFL are wrapping up their last preseason game this weekend, trying to stay healthy. I want to talk some odds with you, Brant, and specific to the Lions, I want to start right there to win the NFC North. We know they won it last year. Hang the banner. Let's go. NFC North champs. But I want to toss those odds out there. I want to know your thoughts, your prediction for who you think will win the NFC North. And then I want to also just shift over to some over-under win totals for some other powerhouses in the NFC who definitely the Lions will have to compete with to be at the top again this year. So, Brant, here are your odds right now for the NFC North. Lions are at plus 130, Packers at plus 200, Bears at plus 340, Vikings at plus 850. Who are you putting your money on and why?
Dave, I love the Lions to win this division. I think it could, I shouldn't say could, I think this should be their year. My money's going on the Bears. I absolutely love Caleb Williams. I love this preseason so far. Maybe it's because I'm a Hard Knocks watcher. I don't know what it is. The Keenan Allen ad, DJ Moore is going to be a baller. The running game is fine. Dave, I got to tell you, I like where the Bears are at right now, and I think Minnesota was going to be a challenger. I'm going to slide them to the back. I don't like any of their over-under win totals. I think they're clearly under. I don't love the Lions to eclipse 12 wins. I think it's going to be mucked up with a 10-win and 11-win team to win this thing. And I like the Bears to be right there with the Lions at the end of the season to be competing for this thing. I think the Packers are behind the Bears at this point, even though the odds makers don't agree with me. That's fine. I've been wrong before. FanDuel has my money. They know that I've been wrong before. It's all right. But I do like the Bears to be the second challenger to the Lions. I like the Lions to win the division. I got to see how the injuries play out through the year. We're going to obviously go week to week and stuff like that. But I like it to be Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings.
I like it to be the order that it's in, which is not a hot take. I like the Lions to repeat and win the division. I think the Packers are going to be right there in the thick of it. And I think the Bears, although I agree with you that their trajectory is positive right now, like they are on the winning path, I'm not buying the Bears just yet. I'm not buying Caleb Williams just yet. I know he looks like the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, and he's good. Okay, he's good. I am not a Caleb Williams fan, but he's good. But Brant, what we don't normally see in the NFL is a rookie quarterback have a CJ Stroud type of debut season. It just doesn't happen. Now, they've insulated Caleb Williams with a ton of talent. He's going to have the weapons there, and they're fairly loaded and have DeAndre Swift at running back and Cole Kmet at tight end. I mean, these are guys that they return. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen. Like, yeah, they're pretty loaded. I just don't think they're there yet. I think that they are they're on the cusp, but I'm not buying that they're going to give the Lions a run. I think they could steal. They may split with the Lions in the regular season, but I don't. I think when push comes to shove at the end of the year, I think it's Lions and Packers, and I think it's probably within a game, maybe 2 games. That's how close it's going to be towards the end here. So, man, the Lions got to get back at the Packers too. We need them to do that. Go ahead, and then I want to ask you about some of these win totals here around the NFC.
Dave, when you mentioned that you don't see a rookie quarterback ascend a team, to the playoffs or to win a division, I completely understand that. But you know how many years we see a team go from worst to first in a division? We see that almost every single year. And I think the NFC North could certainly be in the running this year to see that worst team go to first. And I think the Lions need to have their head on a swivel. I think one thing that you and I can agree on, Dave, is that this division is going to be much better than it was last year.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Braylon, let's start with the Cowboys here. Over-under set at 9.5 wins. Want to know where you stand on the Cowboys. You think they're a contender or pretender this year?
Pretender. I think this one's pretty easy. It's Dak Prescott and it's CeeDee Lamb, and it's not much else. I don't really know. I know their defense will be good. I'm not sure their defense will be great. Micah Parsons still lives there on that defense, but this team is one injury away from not competing at all, let alone being fully healthy and still competing for the division. So I don't like them to win this division. I don't like them to go over the 9.5 wins.
I don't either. I take the under on the Cowboys. Pains me to say it, but the reality is the Cowboys did nothing to improve their team in the offseason. They literally did nothing. They couldn't do anything. This is a poorly ran franchise right now under Jerry Jones. He continues to just want to run it back and get the band back together and see what happens. He brings back Mike McCarthy. We're still talking about the drama of the Dak extension and the CeeDee Lamb stuff. I mean, it's the new season, same story with the Cowboys, and so they may go over this 9.5. I've got them at 9 wins, and but even if they do and they sneak into the playoffs, I don't think they're a real threat. Brant, I'm going to head over to the Packers next, who we talked about. They're at 9.5 wins as well. Where do you have them?
I've got the Packers at over. And I don't think it's much. I think this is a 10-1 football team. I think it's maybe going to get to 11. Again, we talked about the NFC North being one of those battleground divisions. I think there's going to be a lot of split games between these teams. And to be honest with you, Dave, I am kind of a Jordan Love guy. I think he's a good football player. I think he does enough to win football games. I think the defense is good enough. They need to be better, that's for sure. But I'd like this team to go 10-8, maybe 11-7. Your thoughts?
Got the Packers at 10 wins. They also bring in Josh Jacobs, who's a really good running back that's been in a poor situation out there with the Raiders. I think that was, although they lose Aaron Jones to the Vikings, I do think that that's a positive element for them. I think their defense is good enough. Jordan Love thing, I think seems pretty real. I don't know if he is this elite level quarterback or on the cusp of being elite like some people seem to think he is. I'm one season away from buying that hype completely. But he's got weapons, and I think the Packers are definitely, like I said in the opening part of this segment, I think they're going to be right there in the top of the NFC North. Brent, the Rams set at 8.5 wins. Over or under, and this is who the Lions open the season against. By the way, Matthew Stafford returning to Detroit.
Dave, got to do it. Under. I love Matthew Stafford. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he can still spin the ball. I think this offense can be good enough. I have question marks on the defensive end of the ball for this team, and I think they're completely fair. I think they're going to be a lot of close ball games, tough division. I don't see, 9 wins on this schedule, Dave. Give me the under.
I'm going to take the over on the Rams, and I think that this is the last hoorah in a way for the Rams. I think that Cooper Kupp, if he can stay healthy and Puka Nacua can have another year like he had, Kyron Williams seemed to be a really good running back last year. They also obviously draft Blake Corum to the Rams as well. I don't know, man. It's just something about the Sean McVay Stafford thing that, look, it all depends on health, as it does with all of these teams. But if Stafford stays healthy and you've got Cooper Kupp healthy again, which all signs seem to point that way right now, I think this Rams team is not going to be great, but I think they're going to be good enough to be a wild card team in the NFC.
Can I quickly just give you something real quick?
Sure.
I would just like to give you the end of their schedule. Eagles come to town. You go at New Orleans. Bills come to town. At San Francisco. At New York Jets. Cardinals come in. Seahawks come in. I feel like that 6-game stretch is just brutal. And you already mentioned open against the Lions. It's one of those schedules that you look at in the NFC West and you go, man, the NFC West has been a gauntlet. It's going to continue to be a gauntlet. It's just one of those teams that I think that, man, to get over the hump out there, you have to be so good. And I think the 49ers are that team. Go ahead.
Brant, what about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Over under is, and if you notice, I'm going through the a lot of the playoff teams from last year. The over under is set at 7.5 wins. We know they overachieved last year with Baker Mayfield at the helm. They did bring him back, and I want to know if you are buying them to get 8 wins or more, or if you think they'll be under that threshold.
Dave, you're really mucking this up. You are making it a dirty ball game out here, and I love it. Give me the over. It is a nasty, nasty over. I think this team can go over and miss the playoffs. Like, I think that's completely in their realm. However, I think they're good enough to get 8-10 done. And I know you went back to the playoff teams, whatever, but I think Tampa Bay, they like Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield likes them. It kind of seems like a misfit match. And I know they still have the offensive weapons as far as Godwin, Evans go. I like this team to go over, but that division is always just such a mess between the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers, I expect them to win 3 or 4 games again. They haven't improved much. I do see Tampa Bay going over here, Dave.
I'll take the under. I got them right at 7 wins. I'm not buying it. I think that last year they were definitely better than I thought. I mean, they hung right there with the Lions. But I do think that I don't think that they replicate that season. I think they're just kind of a middle of the road team this year and kind of come back down to earth a bit. Okay. Let's go over to Philly. So Philly sitting at 10.5 wins for their over-under. I want to know where you're at on this team and why.
How many?
10.5, sorry.
10.5 under. Easy under for me. I think the NFC East is a mess. I think the Cowboys are going to go under. I think Philly goes under. I think the Giants will be better. And I think it's going to be a challenging division across the board. I think that, as you know, I know this is going to sound crazy because when I say it out loud, it sounds crazy. Jason Kelce walking out the door, it is a big deal. I mean, the tush push is a thing. And now that he's gone, what are you going to do in a 4th and 1 situation, a 4th and 2 situation? Because you're not going to convert everything when you had all those dudes there and Kelce leading that charge. So I know A.J. Brown's still there. I get it. They've done well on the defensive side of the ball. But 10.5, Dave, you bring in Saquon. I get it. I'm still taking the under.
Pains me to say it because I cannot stand the Eagles, but I got them at over this year. I think that they get back on track a bit, and there's something weird in Philly. I don't know. Sirianni, I'm not sure what it is, but you're right. They did add Saquon Barkley, who's going to be in a really good situation there. They basically bring everybody back, including C.J. Gardner-Johnson from Detroit back to Philly, and I think that because I don't see the Cowboys being very good or just being middle of the road, I don't buy the other 2 teams in that division. I think Washington is on the up and up, and they added some pieces in addition to drafting Jaden Daniels, and I think that they are heading in the right direction. I don't think it's this year. I think the Giants are such pretenders. They've got to do something away from the Danny Dimes era. And for that reason, when I just go through that division, I think it's Philly's year there. And I think they're going to be right at the top of the NFC here.
Better quarterback, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts.
Dak Prescott.
Easy for me too. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I think Jalen Hurts does.
People will laugh at that, by the way. Let me beat everybody to the comments here. Oh yeah. Well, man, everybody loves to make fun of Dak, so it's I
think that's outrageous. I am completely with you. Cowboys fans withstanding, but I just think there's something to Jalen Hurts that leads me to believe that he has an implosion year coming at some point. Like I truly believe that he cannot lead this team over that win total.
Fair enough. Okay, Brant, we're down to our final 2 teams here. 49ers, over under 11.5 wins. Definitely the NFC favorite. Your thoughts on them before we talk Lions?
I'm going over. I don't know if much needs to be said here about Kyle Shanahan. To me, best coach in the NFL. I absolutely love Kyle Shanahan. Has these he just reloads, man. And you talk about like when you see it at the college level, you're like, oh, Kirby Smart reloads. Oh, Nick Saban always reloaded. Ryan Day reloads. All this stuff, right? Well, at the NFL level, it is extremely difficult to just reload a roster and be like, yeah, I can do it with this guy or I can do it with that guy. Um, Brock Purdy is nothing to write home about, but the dude is going to ball. And I think they have ballers on that offense that will ball out. And the defense is going to be good, as always. I love San Francisco to go over and win the NFC, the 1 seed.
Okay, you had to add that little piece in there, huh? They're going to be the 1 seed. You just kind of snuck that. Um, hmm. I'm looking at. I think that number is spot on there. I think that I am. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over, but I think it's right at 12. I think that they're a 12 win team. I think the Brandon Ayuk stuff is going to get worked out here at some point. It's kind of like the CeeDee Lamb stuff with Dallas. Like just figure this out here. I don't see them trading him at this point. I think a lot, Brant, it rests on what happens with Christian McCaffrey. CMC he is one of one and in a league of his own. We know his injury riddled career. Now he's been healthy as of late, but all it takes is for CMC to roll an ankle. I mean, it does for any of these teams, but I think he is so critical to this team's success. I think that they could still win football games without him, but he is a huge X factor and a weapon for them. And you lose him for 4 or 5 games in the middle of a season. Like I think it's very possible and realistic. I wonder, Debo as well. He's the way that guy plays football, I love it, but I wonder how he's going to hold up. I think this team is very talented, top to bottom. I think Brock Purdy is good enough to win in San Francisco, and but I don't think that they're some elite team that's untouchable like the given number 1 seed in the NFC, no matter what, Brant. But all right, man, let's end here with our Detroit Lions sitting at 10.5 wins. Where do you got them?
Dave, slightly over. I like this team to win 11 games. I have talked enough about the NFC North being an absolute dogfight. I think that the Lions win this division. Bears close second. Packers right behind them. I think that the Lions will get to 11 wins, scraping by to win this division.
I got the Lions either at 11 or 12 wins. I think that they are, look, from a roster standpoint, they are absolutely better than they were last year. And we know how fun and how enjoyable of a season the Lions gave this entire city. And they're better. And all of these guys and a very young team are 1 year older with one more year of experience and being 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl. The hardest thing for the Lions to overcome, and there was a lot of it, but is just a culture of winning. And I think that it cannot be underscored enough, and it's established in Detroit. That being said, nobody said it better than Dan Campbell last year when he said it was going to be 10 times harder or whatever he used to make it back to that same point this next year. People are going to be gunning for this team. They're not the feel-good story anymore. I mean, they may be in the sense that I think around the league, people love Dan Campbell. They love that the Lions are finally good, like actually good, and not just a fun story. But I think that people are gunning for them and they're preparing for them, and they're going to have an X marked on their back, and I think that they will claw their way to 11 or 12 wins. I think that they will be right there towards the top of the NFC. I mean, very similar to last year with the Niners, with the Eagles, Lions. For me anyway, those are still the same 3 teams. I think the Lions, hands down, are good enough they have enough talent on this team to win a Super Bowl. Will that happen? That remains to be seen. But I'm buying that they are ready to run this thing back. And if you get guys like Jameson Williams to take that step that they've been waiting on, or Aiden Hutchinson to get home just a couple more times on the quarterback. It's like these things, and bringing in a vet like Carlton Davis in the secondary, like they improved, and I hope that they're able to to live up to what I think that they can be, but we'll have to see. Any final thoughts on the Lions, Brant, before we wrap up?
Yeah, Dave, the one thing that scares me the most about the Lions this year is that Ben Johnson is still there. Ben Johnson's offense with Jared Goff is all over the tape, right? So Jamison Williams is all over the tape. Amon St. Brown is all over the tape. Laporta is now on tape. This team will take nobody by surprise. This team will be taken seriously, and that makes me nervous, Dave, because what does the NFL do? They figure you out. These guys get paid big bucks to know exactly where you're going to be, when you're going to be, and how you're going to be there. And I totally expect that to be figured out. And Jared Goff is not the type of dude that you're like, oh yeah, we're going to switch it up this year going into it, and nobody's going to expect it, Dave. So that is what has me a little bit nervous about this team when a guy like Caleb Williams and Jordan Love doesn't have as much tape to have to figure out.
It is so hard to be a perennial contender in this league. It just doesn't happen outside of the Chiefs, the Niners. I mean, truthfully, Tom Brady. It doesn't happen. And I think that's just something to remember. I hope it does. We all think that it can, but it is certainly no given. But my God, football is here. Fantasy drafts are upon us. This is the best time of year. Do us a favor, like, follow, subscribe to Garage Takes. Hop in those comments down there. Let us know about your team in the NFC, where you have them and why, and what you think of the Lions.